Welcome back to my attempt at making my first real video game. However, right now, this isn't even a game yet. But that's okay, I'm going to fix that by the end of this video, and release a free demo for you to play yourself. And I'm going to do that by focusing on the MVP. No, not that one. A minimal viable product. Now I might be asking, what is that? Essentially, this is the core of your game. And if you can make your game fun at its core, then everything else will just add to it. It's like the classic saying, you can't put lipstick on a pig. But in this case, the pig is your game and the lipstick is post-processing. If your game isn't fun at its core, then no amount of features or graphics will make it fun. An MVP also keeps the scope of your game in check. For example, I'm trying to make a firefighter multiplayer game where you build a city, yada yada yada, we don't need all that now. For now we just need the firefighter mechanic to work, since that's the core of the game. Then if that itself is fun, I can focus on adding all my other ideas to it. So now that you get what I'm trying to do, let's get into it. In the last video, I started making my fireman game by giving this little guy a hose that pushes you all around and puts out fires. But that was all just boring setup. So let's get him out of this bland arena and onto some nice smooth grass. Okay, it's just a plane that's green, but for an MVP, it'll work. But you know what won't work even for just an MVP? This cube that changes colors. I want this to be a real house that lights on fire. Luckily, I've already made a house for my other project that can fit this for now. Now, obviously this won't be the final house, but oh my god, look at that! It's on fire! But this town wouldn't look right if it was just a bunch of houses everywhere. So I added this. Now you might be thinking, Phil, that's just a black square. You're better than that. And that's where you're wrong. That's actually a road. So now if you put the house and the road into one object and randomly choose between the two at the start, then the town is randomly generated. But you were right about one thing. I am better than just a black square. So I added sidewalks and lines that change based on what's around it. And just adding this makes a huge difference. Now I just have to make a city that isn't just a random mess. But manually placing and setting 100 plots would be really tedious and wouldn't leave room to grow. So I decided to dynamically spawn the town based on a text file. So this seemingly random string of numbers actually turns into this. Just how I drew it up. You see why I stick to code. With the town setup, I realized the camera angle was a little off, so I changed it since it wouldn't be fair if you couldn't see the fire gauges around the town. Luckily, the fire gauge doesn't do anything yet, so let's fix that too. I started by making the house burn down, or just disappear. And I added a strike system, so once 3 houses burn down, you lose. But what was the point of the game? Is it to survive the longest, to put out the most fires? There just wasn't a goal yet. So I made a scoring system, so whenever you put out a fire, you get a score based on how much fire damage that house took. This makes it so your score isn't just based on how many houses you put out, but also by how fast you get to them. Currently though, this is super easy, since there's only a new fire about every 15 seconds. This gives you way too much time to put out the fires, and it's pretty boring. So I made the game get harder the longer you play, up until the point that it's basically impossible. But that's way better than playing forever. I added your final score to the game over menu, and gave you the option to restart or quit. And with that, the MVP is pretty much done. But I still want this pig to have a little bit of lipstick. I want it to kinda look like a real game. Plus, if I don't do it now, I'll just wait a few years and never get to it. I started simple with a fire hydrant. This isn't my best work, but it looks way better than the hose just floating in the air. Next, I added a pause menu with some simple settings, but that's boring, so here's some more models I made. The water is now actually water instead of gray balls, which definitely didn't cause any problems. I also added a nozzle to the player that moves up and down based on where you're aiming. And most importantly, I gave our guy a fireman hat, so he wasn't just some psycho running around with a hose. He's legit now. I also added a shadow below the player, so you can easily see where you are when you're in the air. Obviously this isn't how shadows work, but for 3D games, it's very useful to see where you are. I also added some simple polish like score pop-ups, animations, and sounds. And last but not least, a main menu. Again, it's not perfect, but it's functional, which is all I'm really going for right now. But now I have to think of a title, and there's plenty of good hose jokes to choose from. Hose ain't loyal, hose before bros, me and my hose, all good choices. But I landed on getting hosed. Now I'm not 100% sold on it, so let me know what you guys think. And with just enough lipstick applied, the MVP is done. And it's basically just a game jam game someone could have made in a weekend. But it took me 2 months. And you can play right now with the link below. You might also notice another link down there, and that's to the new Discord. This will be the best way to give me feedback and ideas. Plus you can share your high scores and talk to other people who are interested. But basically, it's just the best way to keep up to date on the project. So I hope to see you there, and I'll see you guys next time.